6 months. And I should have time to on my
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Sevilla. I'm a librarian here at the Livermore Public Library, and I work with Peggy a lot, and also the Poet Laureates to arrange, these programs here at the library. And thank you so much for being here. Thanks for joining us this afternoon to celebrate the 20-year anniversary of Livermore Poet Laureate Program. The program has added literary enrichments for our community for 2 decades, a milestone to celebrate in any community. Each of Livermore's Poet Laureates, present and past, will read a selection of poems of occasion, written for dedication of the city's art installations and official events through the years. Connie Post was sworn in as Livermore's first Poet Laureate at a City Council meeting on May 23, 2005. The first official event, Wine and Words, was held at the Martinelli Event Center on November 6, 2005. Since that time, the program has continued to provide poems of occasions for significant events in the city, along with poetry readings, teen and youth programs, workshops, and more. Today, Livermore's Poet Laureates, past and present, will share some of their poems occasions. The laureates have served as follows. Connie Post has served from 2005 to 2009. Sher Waller served from 2009 to 2013. Kevin Gunn served from 2013 to 2017. Cynthia Patton served from 2017 to 2022. Peggy Schildeman started from 2022 and is our current Poet Laureate. Each laureate has implemented their own unique skill sets to the position. Currently, Peggy Schildeman hosts a quarterly Verse on Divine Reading, a revival of the Ravenswood series that begun by Connie Post and continued by all subsequent Poet Laureates, featuring renowned poets from across the Bay Area. She has continued sponsoring the popular Poetry in a Test Tube contest and expanded the Teen Poetry Contest, 2 popular programs initiated by Poet Laureate Emeritus Kevin Gunn, to include middle schoolers. Along with occasional pop-up poetry events and workshops, she co-hosts with Poet Laureate Emeritus Cynthia Patton at the Whistle Stop Writers Open Mic at Swirl on the Square, which is held on the 3rd Thursday of every month. The laureates wish to acknowledge the support of Alan McFarland, who unfortunately can't be here today. He's the management analyst for the Livermore Public Library, who oversees the Poet Laureate Program. We're also grateful for the support of Livermore Mayor John Marshall and the City Council, along with the Livermore Commission for the Arts, which recently approved a grant for publication of a collection of poems of occasion, which will be available to read in the libraries and other city locations. Let me now introduce to you Peggy Schildeman, Livermore's current Poet Laureate.
Thank you all so much for coming out. We truly appreciate your support. We are all going to read some of these poems that Paul just mentioned, the commemorative poems for such things as the wall at the bankhead. I did one in Springtown. There's a number of sculptures and artwork downtown. And each of those didn't just have, they had a dedication ceremony, which, I mean, if you were like me, you probably didn't even notice these ceremonies and things were happening. But they each had a poet come and read a dedication poem. So we're going to share some of those with you tonight. We're going to start with our first Poet Laureate, Connie. How many of you know Connie Post personally? Or you know something about her? Okay. Well, before I tell you, before I give you the official bio for Connie, I thought we would play a little game called Two Truths and a Lie. Kelly Essery taught me this. He can't figure out. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna read 3 statements about Connie, and you all don't say anything. If you know the answer, just shush. And wait till I'm finished, and then we'll see how many people can guess which 2 of these statements are true, and which one is just something I made up, okay? So, Connie Post was once employed as a short order cook, specializing in eggs. Connie Post once worked on a poultry farm in college. As a child, Connie Post dreamed of becoming a ballet dancer. Okay, so now, how many people believe that number 1 is true? Connie was once employed as a short order cook specializing in eggs. Who believes that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, a few. How many people think that's a lie? More people think it's a lie. Okay, how many believe Connie worked on a poultry farm? Oh, a lot of people believe that. Okay. How many people think that's a lie? Okay, as a child, she dreamed of becoming a ballet dancer. True? How many think that's false? About half and half, okay. So the truth is, the only lie is that as a child she dreamed of becoming a ballet dancer. She did not. What did you dream of becoming?
Like a surgeon.
A surgeon? There you go. Okay, so now you know something about Connie. And I'm going to now read her official bio. Connie Post served as the first Poet Laureate of Livermore. Her work has appeared in journals such as Calyx, Comstock Review, Cutthroat Magazine, River Styx, Two River, the American Journal of Poetry, Spoon River Poetry Review, and many more. Her awards include the Crab Creek Review Award, Waikara Award, and the Caesura Award, and most recently the American Legacy Award for her new chapbook, And When the Sun Drops. She has 3 full-length collections, 4 chapbooks? 3. Her 2023 collections include Between Twilight by New York Quarterly Books and Broken Metronome by Glassfire Press. Between Twilight was a finalist for Best Book Award, and Broken Metronome has earned 6 awards, including winner for a poetry chapbook in the American Fiction Awards, distinguished favorite in the Independent Press Awards, and finalist in the Eric Hoffer Book Awards. During her time as Poet Laureate, Connie wrote and performed 26 poems. We were having a big culture boom at that time. Connie got to be part of that. These included dedications for the Big Fountain by Strizzi's, the Bankhead Theater, the Peace Monument near the Old Library, and several for Hospice's annual Lights of the Valley. Please welcome Connie Post.
I'm doing the short person adjustment. There, how do I sound, okay? Thanks all for being here. Some of you are very near and dear to me. As far as what I'm wearing, red and gray, when I asked Kevin this morning, what do you think? He goes, yeah, they're good. It's Washington State colors. I'm like, okay. So at least I'm dressed sports appropriate, right, honey? If you don't know, Kevin is my husband. That sounds all right. Yeah, actually, I was really good at a short. I mean, those eggs. I mean, I would crack, and I was really good at it. I just had to learn. I learned it in a day. So there's such a variety of things that I wrote about, and I was really excited about that. And one of the challenges of poems of occasion is they have to both meet the moment and they also have to be poetically sound. And it's very hard to kind of balance those two things to make sure that both of those are being achieved. So since I was, since I started in May, one of the very first events I wrote a poem for was that we had a cowboy poetry event, and I was pulled up on stage by this cowboy poetry band, and it was super fun. But this is a short little poem about, it says, Cowboy Poets. You can hear their boots in the gravel, the steady hooves of the horse, the way the serenity settles in a fallow field. You can listen as the words drop at the shallow end of the river. You can drink the memories from their cupped and leathered hands. You can bend down to the dry creek bed where all of the sunsets have seeped and look across the meadow and see a cowboy poet walking towards you, holding reins and verse, steering each so we can sigh and forget the fade of an orange sky and at last bring the horses in. Cowboy poetry is a whole kind of other kind of poetry that has its own life, but I think I had a couple of cowboy poets out I was sponsoring. But Livermore is a town, they say, of scientists and cowboys. It's an interesting kind of mix that we have here. The next one that I wrote, and I'm going to read, I'm very, very proud to have the bronzed poem in front of the bankhead. There's some green lime stone in the front, and so when we dedicated that, this was the poem that I wrote for it. And this was June 14, 2007. Water over stone. Go to where the water runs over the stone, where the diligent day holds the hand of dusk. Find a pathway where the grass is soft and where the pool blades remember. A Sunday picnic, a summer moon, a languid night. Go to where literature is carved into the unconscious of a city, the words finding their way to the back roads of thought. Each footprint finds its place in the history of a town. Each finds its way beyond the beckoning lights to a song, a dance, an opera never heard. Go back to the time when you could fold your legs under and feel the earth beneath you. Imbibe the self you have forgotten. Let it flow back to you. Close your eyes. The words, the stones, the places in the grass, they will find you. Thank you. And then, so Ravenswood, for those of you who live here, is a beautiful winery, not a winery, but it's a beautiful rustic house, and there's vineyards in the front. And they did a whole replanting of the entire vineyard. And I'll never forget that day, because I'm sitting out there waiting to do my poem, and it was like 106 degrees, and I'm like, I'm just gonna pass out, and all these other women had like these Victorian outfits on, and it was mostly I just remember being really hot. But this is the poem called A Time for Replanting. Replanting Ravenswood. Each grain of soil remembers what it's like to be nurtured. A caring hand digs and finds the spaces in between. All the years spent waiting, grasping for strands of sun, reaching. There is a vineyard that waits in all of us, full of nostalgic wines and memories, some placed on their sides, others opened too soon, but each robust and struggling to find their way back. In the dim light of a wise historic home, there is tannin and oak in the dust, and they wait. The fallow decades rested for a reason, took a shallow breath until the time would arrive, for a moment, a breaking of the hard soil, a sigh from within the earth, the ending of the silence, an indelible resonance, a replanting. I'm going to read one more from my Poet Laureate life, and then I'll close with just kind of a different one. But I wanted to say before, actually, what I was very happy that we're at 20 years. A lot of programs don't necessarily last that long. Could be because of the financing, they don't have enough laureates, not lack of interest, so it's really a milestone. I want to be really proud of that all these people have worked with after me just as hard to bring programs to the community that matters. So I'm very grateful that the program stayed. So one of the things I did, Opera in the Vineyard is something they have here, and I had volunteered to do a poem about music. Music's extremely important to me, and I turn to it often when I'm sad or I feel lost. And so I really loved writing this poem, and it's called Lyrical Life. It is music in all its grace and gratitude that finds you in the middle of the night, finds you when you thought it had forgotten you, finds you on a walk in the middle of a quiet street, the trees sing an aria with the sky. It is harmony that seeks to complete itself when chords find you like nostalgia, like fate. It is when the octave of your days seems to span over each reminiscent moment and tells you it is music that composed your most pensive thoughts, created all of the notes on the page of your existence. It is when you felt most alone that a minor chord crept upon the couch by your side and seemed to absorb every lonely moment you've ever had. It was when you sat with someone on an old porch and remembered the days of a cappella and the crescendo of spring. We write our symphonies as we walk across a stage custom-made for our voices. Bring lyrics that fall like snow around our ears and capture each whole note, like an opus, like a song we have been trying to sing all our lives. All of the poems I wrote really had very special significance to me. This one is a poem about, it's not a poem, it's called Maps, and I just want to say I really miss the whole physicality of the maps and spreading them out and drawing a line. So this one's called Maps. I no longer want Google Map directions. I want to stop at a local gas station where the people know how to get somewhere. I will buy a cold root beer where the soda slightly spills out of the top of the lid. I want someone to understand the loss of my tire pressure, and for someone to understand that I've forgotten how to pop the hood. I want the attendant to tell me why the road washed out last year. When I search for the money to pay for my drink and Fritos, I want them to wait a long time until my purse is an open cavern. I want them to see how long I can stand there as a half shadow. I want them to see there is a drought in my mouth. Mostly, I want someone to know I'm lost. Thank you.
Crowd has grown. Thank you all who came in late. I'm Faith. Hi, Katie. Emily. Still doing it after all this time. Okay, and Ron. Okay, so the next Poet Laureate after Connie was Cher Wallard, which I mispronounced as Wallard for the first 10 years that I worked. Looks like Wallard. Sharon Wallard was, and before I read her official bio, let's do 2 truths and a lie about Cher. Okay, don't say anything if you know the answer, Chris. Number 1, Cher is an avid fan of the Great British Baking Show. Number 2, Cher was a home economics major in college before she switched to English. Number 3, as a child, Cher dreamed of being a film director. Tough choices, huh? Okay, so how many believe that Cher is an avid fan of the Great British Baking Show? Because who would make that up?
Yeah.
Who does think she made that up? That we made that up? Nobody? Everybody believes that's true, huh? Okay, so how many believe that Cher was a home economics major in college? Yes? Okay. How many think that's a lie? How many don't have any idea and they're not voting? A lot of people. Okay, as a child, Cher dreamed of being a film director. Is that true? How many think that's true? You think that's true? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. How many think that's a lie? Okay. Well, the lie is that Cher was a home economics major. She did in fact dream of being a film director, and she's an avid fan of the Great British Baking Show, although she's not much of a cook, she says. So let me introduce Sharon Sue Waller. She was Poet Laureate of Livermore 2009 to 2013. She served on the Livermore Commission for the Arts from 2014 to 2024. During her tenure as Poet Laureate, she wrote approximately 15 poems of occasion on request from the city. Those specifically related to art dedications included poems celebrating the unveiling of the first group of painted utility boxes, the dedication of the new Lizzie Fountain, and the 20th anniversary of Livermore Opera. Her award-winning poems have appeared in literary journals and anthologies, including the, Carquinez Review, The Gathering, Joys at the Table, an anthology of culinary verse, and Bird Black as the Sun, California Poets on Crows and Ravens. Her first book, In My Other Life, was a collection of original poems and paintings and was released in 2010 by Richer Resources Publishing. Her most recent book, The Magician's Wife, was published in 2018, also by Richer Resources. So please welcome Cher Waller. Oh, that's true, good point. Can you all see? Come over there. And the microphone. Good.
Good. I like having cup inspirational. I just, while we're doing this, I want to say we cannot have the 20th anniversary of the Poet Laureate Program without mentioning Blanche Abrams, who was a former Livermore resident, a writer and poet, a dear friend of many of us, and the person who told the mayor at the time that we needed this, and we should have this, and this is how it will work. And so, thanks to Blanche. Where is she? One of the first poems that I wrote as Poet Laureate was for a mural that I know a lot of you are familiar with. Every time you drive to the outlets or down Isabel, the whales on the side of the water treatment plant. And the artist is named Darren Greenwood. He actually worked for the city at that time, and he just decided to paint this. He got permission and he just did it. I mean, quite a feat. Anyway, this was my poem. Whales in an inland town. The ocean is closer than you think, Darren Greenwood. Everything begins with water. Clouds, fog, clear sweet raindrops, brutish hail, brackish brooks, the deep, wide indigo abyss. All of its streams, storms, surges, swishes, clangs against metal pipes, flowing through rivers, eddies, our vaporous bodies. Here in an inland town, next to airport and freeway, a sluice of cars, trucks, planes, an ocean swirls in a concrete box and in two huge cylinders squatting beside it. On their wet walls, gray whales and dolphins arc and leap, while humpbacks hum their silent song, and the great shark glides like a white shadow through sunlit waves. Back of it all, and underneath, water rushes, and the remains of the living are returned to the sea. This was a poem that I wrote. So the city every year has a volunteer appreciation dinner to celebrate those who serve on commissions and committees and do various things, including the Poet Laureates. Poet Laureate, however, is the only one who has to work for her supper. For his. So this is a poem that I wrote for one of them. I don't remember which one. Maybe it was the strum of a cowboy's guitar or the slap of boots on sidewalks cobbled with neighborliness. Whatever the word that launched a notion that grew into this gathering. You may call it a poem, like this poem. You can whisper it along the avenues, tie it with yellow ribbons, write it in paint or ink on every wall and utility box at every corner of the city. Some poems are meant to be spoken, some to be stenciled onto a page, others must be recited, like prayers or the alphabet. This is not such a poem. This is not a poem for the ages. This is a poem for those who are here today. So it's not uncommon for poet laureates in many communities to write, can you still hear me? To write poems for works of art. But in 2011, we had for the second time the Amgen bicycle tour coming through our town. And we were the only city ever, I don't know still, but at least as of 2011, among all the towns that bicycle tour had ever gone through all of its long span as bicycle tour, that had a poem written for it. So and I got to read it on the loudspeaker. People were quite surprised. On the Amgen tour of California started in California, May 18th, 2011. In those lazy lopes about town, racers flow past shop windows, tall spires of vines, the vertical heft of the Oddfellows Hall, fountains spewing rain back into the sky. Amid the cyclist fluid rush east along the broad boulevards, aluminum frames stream like fish or feathers. But what of the road ahead? What will it ask of them? That hard scrabble mountain, this gravel and grit, these twisted dust trails, wheels pounding the open train. I should tell you, in case you don't know, after they went downtown, they went up Del Val. One of the things that I did when I was Poet Laureate was that I had I don't know if you really call it an event, but something called Poetry in Place. And I invited writers to write poems or very short fiction about places downtown. And they knocked on the doors of these businesses and asked for permission because we wanted people hanging in the windows. So one of the ones I wrote was about the donut wheel. Donut wheel, 7 a.m. The old shop smells of yeast, oil, coffee. Overhead fluorescent lights wink at turquoise walls. A clerk's dark eyes scan inventory. Cake, raised, twists, bars, powdered, glazed, plain. At the table by the window, old cowboys done crullers and bitter coffee gone tepid. Today's newspaper already abandoned beside them. A tall pilgrim from Sarasota, land of orange juice and honey, orders 3 dozen glazed holes for bowls. The first taste, a shock of sugar in the mouth, then soft dough, a remembrance of youth. Brown-haired toddler kneels on a red-backed chair, paper napkins spread across yellow melon-rind tabletop. He feasts with studied pleasure, picks off multicolored sprinkles one by one, sucks them like candies, sips milk through a striped straw, then lowers his rosebud mouth to chew off white icing, leaving a cake-green souvenir. From the kitchen, the diminutive baker emerges, balancing fresh aluminum trays. Schoolgirls pierced in mascara, lick chocolate, raspberry, lemon from tissue pick sheets, pink tongues darting at sweetness. Decade by decade, new owners, new generations of old folks and children. On the radio, they still play Sweet Little 16 once in a while, as though rock and roll truly never will die, as though this little piece might stand through time. There's a Facebook page for Donut Wheel, and my phone is on that. I don't know. But that guy from Sarasota put it up there. This poem, this is one that I wrote. I consider it still part of the program, but it was long after I was Poet Laureate. I think maybe Peggy was Poet Laureate when this event occurred. It was one of several ekphrastic events that were held at the Bankhead with Jean, forget his name. Both of them? Oh, I'm sorry, Cynthia. Okay, this was Cynthia's. Yes, yes. And it was a wonderful event. So in case you don't know, an ekphrastic means art responding to art. Traditionally, it's artwork that poets write about. Think Ode on a Grecian urn, something like that. But this particular one went both ways. So there were some where people wrote the poem first and did the artwork later. This one, the painting was up, and you get them online. They send out these pictures of the artwork, and honestly, online it was not that impressive. In person, it was a killer thing. So this is called Walk After the Rain. This is the walk I will take when the dark clouds pass after the first rain of midwinter ceases and sunlight has returned to my day. Then the sky will open its turquoise mouth, exhale bright cumulus clouds. Then the petrodor of earth will freshen, leaving a scent like fermented pears. Thirsty leaves of maple and live oak, which now so carefully cup each glistening drop, will tilt then to shake off the excess water. I will tilt my face to this benediction. As I walk, I will lift my arms like the sated trees, my every step of gratitude. Thank you so much.
We would be lost without all of these events. We would. He makes them go so smoothly. Not only does he do things like this, but when I get here, he has the table set out, he has everything ready. It's huge. Okay, we're going to hear from one more poet laureate before we take maybe a 5-minute break to stretch our legs, and I'll do the raffle, and we'll do the raffle tickets at that time. So if you don't have a raffle ticket, you should get one off the table back there. They're free. We are just giving away a few books. But before we do that, we're going to hear from Kevin Gunn, who is our 3rd poet laureate. And so let's see what lies and truth Kevin has fed us. 1, Kevin says he has a green belt in karate he earned in 1997. He said he sometimes performs as a stand-up comic, and he says he plays piano 2 nights a week for senior residences. How many people think Kevin really has a green belt in karate from 1997? Few people.
I want to take that.
How many people believe that Kevin sometimes performs as a stand-up comic? That's easy, everybody believes that. Okay. How many people believe he plays piano 2 nights a week for senior residences? Everybody believes that. Yeah. Those, the only one that is not true is that he has a green belt in karate. So no one's surprised. Okay. So let's hear some more about Kevin. Kevin served as the Poet Laureate of Livermore from 2013 to 2017. During that time, he curated the Ravenswood Poetry Series and worked with grammar school students and started a Teen Poet of the Month contest program. His chapbook, Hey Yard Duty, Johnny Said the F Word, a chapbook of poems about teaching, because he taught for years at Livermore High, because you didn't know, and other places, right? That book was published by Finishing Line Press in 2016. During his time as Poet Laureate, he wrote over 10 poems for civic occasions and city events. His favorite was entitled Beacon, dedicated to the light bulb still going here in Livermore. Familiar with the never-ending light bulb? Okay, so please welcome Kevin Gunn.
Thank you, Peggy. I want to begin by saying it's a real privilege and pleasure to be Poet Laureate. standing on the shoulders of my wife and Cher, who got the program off and running and made the job easier for me. But I wanted to speak about my wife briefly. She mentioned that last poem of hers about getting lost, and she gets lost a lot and will call me and try to figure out where she is and how to get home from where she is. And the standard joke in our house is that basically wherever she is, there's going to be an abandoned warehouse and tumbleweeds blowing by. It's unbelievable she's been lost. But anyway, thankfully we've always gotten her home. But it's taken
I help
some...
with the computer, he helps with it.
Yeah, that's true. The Poet Laureate job I really enjoy because for many years I've been writing poems at school at Livermore High for retired teachers, probably 100 of those. And then I love writing poems for the football team when I was coaching to get them fired up before games. And I did a whole bunch of those. I had one for every team in the league. And actually was texting, I texted the next player of mine about 2 nights ago, and he mentioned, he wanted me to see if I could remember the nickname I had for him, which I did, which is Wolfman Jack. And also he said he missed the poems I used to write for the team. So those are fun things to do. I once had a teacher challenge me to write a poem about California state history standards, every standard on the state history standards. And I took that challenge on one summer. It was boring, but I got through that. And the first poem I wrote for the city, I think, had to do with the tree sweater campaign downtown. And I didn't know anything about sewing or knitting, and I had to look up as many sewing and knitting terms as I could find. And that was challenging, but a fun one to write. The ones I wrote for the city that I'm going to read today, I think either the second one after the tree sweater poem that I wrote was the one about the newly discovered element Livermorium. So I'm going to begin with that poem. 2 continents chemically collide on a scientific fault line. Tremors shake the periodic table, one so stable, nothing prefab, born in a lab. Livermore and Russia, the proud parents of this infant element. Unique offspring, a collaborative conception, pointing in a new direction, an exciting molecular factorium. Welcome to the world, Livermore. Thank you. The Carnegie Park, when they built the gazebo downtown, the musical thing for in Carnegie Park, it was my privilege to try to write a poem about that. So this poem has to do with that particular event. And the poem is titled On the Downbeat. On the downbeat, the new gazebo rocks. The music meanders through multiple blocks. This beautiful bandstand skillfully constructed to showcase the sound so expertly conducted. Special events and celebrations too will now have a state-of-the-art venue. A new stellar stage so deftly designed will be part of how Carnegie Park is defined. The people will honor the civic serenade, the municipal melody, no mere passing parade. Lifting spirits of all who attend, a well-orchestrated chorus will become a time-honored trend. In building this bandstand, Livermore lifted its aim, and now Carnegie Park will never be the same. Thank you. I believe the next poem had to do with a banquet or a dinner where the city was honoring volunteers throughout Livermore who have done community service. And it's called Simmer and Serve. Many contributing cooks year to year stir the pot, volunteer, help prepare a magnanimous meal. Selfless sacrifice is a key ingredient in a recipe for renewal. A savory stew of service, a blending of tenderloin talents, ladled out in participatory portions, feeding the forgotten, nourishing needs, planting seeds, helping to keep our town on track, reflecting our appetite for giving back. And this was really a fun one about the light bulb that just keeps on burning here in Livermore. I got the opportunity to read this poem, and although As I recall, Mayor Marchand almost forgot to have me read the poem. I had to insert myself into the proceedings and say, I have a poem, remember? Oh, yeah. So this poem is called Beacon. Kind of call it my Rodney Dangerfield poem. It didn't get much respect that day, but it's called Beacon. Livermore boasts a light bulb that would make Tom Bodette jealous. The Energizer Bunny couldn't compete with our incandescent icon. 114 years, a million hours. This bulb possesses otherworldly powers. First installed in 1901, you think by now its job would be done. But somehow it shines on and on, a centennial-busting phenomenon. A hand-blown bulb of 60 watts, it has lit up the confines in multiple spots. Moved 4 times, it has shared its glow. This luminous legend has been on the go. Fire stations have been bathed in its light, and light and longevity, a supernatural sight. As dependable as the stations it serves, it receives the recognition it well deserves. You can visit this bulb and survey its history, taking the aura that has become its mystery. Livermore isn't that far away, so take a day, follow the route. We promise not to turn the light out. Thanks. This other poem that I brought is a part of a collection of poems I've written about getting older. I think I'm going to title this collection Aging Like Not So Fine Wine. The title of this poem is called Invasion of the Interloping Infidels. A single gray hair is like Genghis Khan, an alien invader, an infiltrator, an unwelcome guest who overstays, like a weed that steals its way in at night, a fearsome threat, a terrifying sight. A few gray hairs are like a horde of Huns. From their appearance, our vanity runs. They wreak havoc on our face and head, fill us with a sense of dread. Soon our fear begins to show as their menacing numbers grow. Pillaging follicles, looting our stubble, on scalps and chins, they are nothing but trouble. We hire mercenaries to repel the takeover. Just for men and Grecian formula try to muster the makeover. This incursion of grays wildly running roughshod inspires our resistance, a geriatric jihad. The battle goes on with a sign of retreat in between intervals of lather, rinse, and repeat. Against the Huns, there is no compromise, but when it comes to hair color, it just might be wise to forget about trying to keep it away. After all, time moves on, you can't make it stay. To swallow your pride seems a small price to pay. Accept your follicle fate and say, color me gray.
On that lighter note, let's take a break, like 5 minutes or so, just to stretch and get a lottery ticket if you don't.